Hi and welcome in this video response. I'm Catherine. My channel is mostly in French, but I do enjoy the occasional video in English, and actually lately it's not been so occasional. This is a response to a tag by Simon from the Hermit's Cave. I love those good old tags. It's this kind of tag that we like to have for the tarot community, that we like to see each other's answer, and it's also great to have the opportunity to update some of the answers we've already responded to a couple of years ago, but it's always so relevant to see how we evolve with our tarot practice and what tarot means to us, because it's obviously in constant evolution for any of us. Well, at least I hope it is. That's why I'm very grateful to Simon for bringing such a tag to the tarot community again in 2022. The first question: your first tarot deck and how you encountered it. Wow, that's a good question that I've answered plenty of times in French, but never in English. So let's dive into this huge topic. In the beginning of 2015, I went to an exhibition in Paris about the artist Niki de Phalle. One of her biggest projects is a huge tarot garden with the giant sculptures in Tuscany. This deck is definitely not good enough compared to the quality of those huge sculptures, but I'm gonna show you as I tell you my little story. When I heard Niki de Phalle talk about archetypes and her Jungian inspired vision of tarot, I was very astonished, because I had such a different vision of what tarot was supposed to be, very pop culture inspired and full of cliches. I was very skeptical about tarot. I had no clue it could be something that big and that expensive. So I kept this idea in a corner of my mind, but to be honest, I totally forgot that it was the exhibition that was the spark that brought me on my tarot quest. It's just a spark, and then I went on with my life. And I was like, tarot is gonna find me, I'm gonna find the tarot deck. I don't know anything else about tarot, so I have no clue where to start. But I was pretty confident that when the time would be right, I would get a chance to know what tarot was all about. So somewhere in the beginning of 2016, it became more urgent to me to find out, and I still had no clue. I had friends who were playing tarot, like the actual tarot playing card, and I was like, yeah, but there's something else. Where should I look for it? And I asked to a friend of mine who is very much into all the things Jungian and archetypes and stuff, and she said, oh, but you have to look for the Tarot de Marseille, and especially what Jodorowsky makes about it, and he uncovered the real tarot with the real initial colors, and it's a special edition, and his work is the all in about on tarot. There's nothing else that you need to know. That's where you need to start. Tarot pop. Jodorowsky. About the deck, I thought it was expensive, and it looked nothing that I could relate to. And as soon as I started to read this thing about this guy who obviously thinks he's the center of the universe, who's sexist, heteronormative, I didn't know back then how terrible he was. But if you're interested in that, just look it up. Jodorowsky and sexual violence or sexual assault, and you'll get the gist of it. But this is safe enough. I'm not going to go into details on this channel. And yeah, I thought, wow, that's incredible, it works, it's really reflecting something interesting to me, what I see in the cards, when I see the meanings, even though what he writes about it is just terrible. And so I had to go on Google and just say tarot feminists. What, how, why is tarot such a sexist, binarist, ridiculous thing as Jodorowsky makes of it? And then very quickly, because it was like in a matter of a second, wow, it works, it's amazing, but what the F is this thing? Oh, I can't work with that. So I ended up on the Little Red Tarot website, and I was like, oh, there's something else. There's a queer community, there's a feminist community, there's alternative tarot approaches. Thank goodness. Gosh, I'm so happy. And very, very quickly afterwards, like in a matter of days, I ordered the Wild Unknown Tarot from the Little Red Tarot web shop. Gosh, it's too hard. It's gonna be hard for me to go on and make a whole video in English. So anyway, this is the one. This is my actual first tarot deck, because I never kept the Tarot de Marseille by Jodorowsky and Camoin, probably the one and only true Marseille that tells us everything about the universe, who's the ultimate universal deck. Never kept it. And because a lot of French speakers, artists who create tarot decks, they like to have something that's more Marseille inspired with only 22 cards. I bought other Marseille decks along the way, but it was never a fit for me. I'm done with that. I gave most of them away or sold them. They have new homes, and in my home, Marseille, never say never, but for now it's just not for me. Never. And you know, I need 78 cards. I don't need anything too peepish, even though some might argue that the Wild Unknown Tarot is pretty peepish, but still. My baby. It's the second indie edition, so pretty happy with that, pretty happy with the quality. Why this one? Well, there wasn't so many tarot decks back then on the Little Red Tarot web shop, and also it's only 6 years ago, but you have to realize that we didn't have all that diversity, and when you went to mainstream tarot decks, it was always the same US games, Llewellyn, same old decks with no diversity at all people white, all thin, all able-bodied, all blah blah blah, straight, and so on and so forth. So that was definitely not for me. And I'm very glad I found this one. Was it a choice because there wasn't anything better? Maybe, but also I really loved it. I mean, I got it tattooed on me everywhere, so obviously it spoke to me. I didn't enjoy the guidebook, but I had every resource that I needed on the Little Red Tarot website to start my tarot journey. I did follow the course, the alternative tarot course that Beth proposes, and it was like that was it. I was deep into this deck. And I studied with him, with it. A lot of people would say, oh, but it's not a beginner's deck, or it's not RWS enough. Well, actually, I'm not so fond of the RWS, so it's just fine. I did continually look up other decks online and the traditional images online as well, so that I could follow and have a broader scope of representations in mind as well. Not broader, but because it's not very representative, but you know, different tarot imagery in mind. But I did start with this one, and it's the one that gave me the love of tarot. And yeah, I mean, yeah, you either love or hate this deck, I know, and you have to understand what it was like for us weirdos, queerdos, who were looking for tarot decks who reflected us back then, 6 years ago, maybe more. What this one, it was a game changer. It was like, it was the green light for so many creators to understand that they would be able to do whatever they wanted to, whatever they needed to express through tarot cards, that we didn't need to stick to the old universal tarot decks like Jodorowsky, only white, only the purple. No, we could make it ours, and that was important. I think that's what's so important. It's not even the aesthetics to me, it's the green light. Tarot is ours. It can be broader, and it did open up something. It's a kind of a trailblazer in a way, and yeah, maybe now it's even like only 10 years after it was released, it's kind of outdated because we have so much more now. But and it's not the one that I use the most, although I do use it still now. It's my first love, and I'm very loyal. I will never forget my first love, tarot love. And yeah, I just can't with this summer. Your last deck and how your taste have changed since your first. As Simon did, I understood it as the last decks that I purchased, because I have been gifted other decks since those came into my collections. But I will stick to the ones that I purchased. It was exactly 2 months ago, and it was rather it's not impulsive. Yeah, it was. For one of them it wasn't, but about 3 on the total impulse buy. It was just after I came back to Brussels. I spent about 2 weeks in the countryside because someone in my family dies, and I think it was definitely, I have a problem. I'm very bad with money. I spend more money than I can afford, and now obviously I feel the pain for what I did 2 months ago. There's no such thing as retail therapy. It's just capitalism telling you that if you buy anything you're gonna feel better. And there's no such thing as a deck that's going to be a game changer that you can do without, or especially now that there are so many decks. But back then, I mean, I felt bad, and it felt good, as capitalistic as it is, to buy those decks. Paying it now, but okay, I mean, I did it. It's done, and I don't regret. This one especially not. My butch just made a little bag for it. It's so cute. If you're interested in her tarot bags, the links would be below. It's the pocket edition of the Gentle Tarot. I'm very disappointed with the tin box. It doesn't really fit the decks. I had to customize it. Why this deck? I traded last summer. I traded the Gentle Tarot, and eventually I used it during the summer, but eventually my butch kept it because she really loved it, and to me it was more of a summer deck, and I was okay with her keeping it. I was totally okay, and she really felt in love with it, so she wouldn't give it back to me. As the summer arrived, I was like, but you know, this is my summer deck. It had become in a year the deck that I would most associate with summer, and I was so very happy there was a pocket edition, because with my ideas it's usually complicated for me to handle a normal size tarot deck, so tiny teeny pocket tarot is perfect for me. Only what I did is also I couldn't hold myself clearly. I also bought 2 other decks. The classical Thoth tarot, or it's the French version, it was the least expensive. I always thought, okay, I like to study this deck. I don't like to use it, but I like to study it for the Golden Dawn Hermetic Order references to astrology and stuff. I don't like Frida Harris's drawings. It doesn't speak to me. I don't really like the cultural appropriation, Kabbalistic especially, of Aleister Crowley. I'm not into this deck. but I like it because I'm a tarot geek. I like the references, I like the keywords and the astrology and what it brings to my tarot understandings, even though I do not on a day-to-day basis read tarot using all those. So I was like, okay, I've been looking for it for a long time, try to find it in second-hand bookshops, never found it. Maybe it's time for me to spend, I don't know, maybe it was 16 euros or something in this deck. Never used it for now. I will not do tarot readings with it, but I had to buy this one. Totally not my aesthetics, but to answer how my tastes have changed. Well, back then, when I started learning tarot, I needed something that was really, that felt safe, that felt like it corresponded to what I was looking for, that was holding me, that wasn't something sexist or, you know, all of those things. And here we have someone who's basically very sexist. Aleister Crowley has a history of being pretty manipulative with women and also gay men. But yeah, I'm more open-minded when it comes to that. I'm more tolerant towards assholes, maybe, because now it's just for my tarot knowledge. It's just something I need in my tarot toolkit, but it's not. I can get more distance. Whereas when I started learning tarot, I needed a deck that was 100% fine for me. Well, this one isn't 100% fine, but maybe something like 90%. I mean, I don't like the cards names, for example, but the third one I bought, maybe I do regret it, because, okay, it's just the mass market terrible quality, because the deck is really great, the Transient Light Tarot. It's very, in its spirit, it's very close to the wild unknown, you know, like in a way of, there are no people, only a couple of animals. It's not too figurative, like, you know, maybe it's suggestive. There's a lot, but it's also, yeah, like you don't have many details to cultivate your imagination or trigger your intuitions or things like that. Look at those big chunky deck. It's Hay House quality, meaning there's no quality. They don't bend those cards. It's just cardboard. Well, there's a core, maybe. Not even sure. I'm so sad. Look, it's on the floor. If I can hold it in my hand, I like it. But you see the problem. It's more like it doesn't fit in my hands. It's hard to shuffle. The same old Hay House edition, like bad publishers will continue to do bad things, apparently. I'm so sad because it's a queer deck, it's very inclusive. It might be a winter deck for me. I like the names, the gender neutral names, everything is cool about this deck, actually, apart from the quality, I mean, obviously. But oh, look at that. It's impossible to handle. But yeah, so I don't feel like it's a big change from my first deck, which was, it's still one of my best quality deck, by the way. And the Gentle Tarot, in a way, with this awesome quality for the cards, being very nature-based, it's in resonance with the wild unknown. But I think I like it better because I like what the artist came up with, how she's inspired by her place and what grows there, and the species, you know, like the wands are a species of mugwort or an Artemisia Alaskan something that grows in Alaska. So everything is so thoughtful about this one, especially looking at the cards and some of the majors. I can feel, and the many rainbows everywhere. I can see that my tastes have changed, my mind has broadened. I'm more able to understand tarot on maybe a less intuitive level, but also, you know, I'm not tarot scholar or tarot expert, but yeah, I'm growing as someone who is into tarot and the history and the references and the associations. And they can read intuitively, both of them. Very much. Well, some people think that this one is not intuitive at all, but to me, those are very intuitive decks. Decks that I don't need to come up with a lot of references, knowledge, and to bring everything I know about the card to understand it. Now, I go with the gut feelings. I go with, and yeah, it's still what I prefer in the deck. I love the symbology. I love the references. I love the color codes. I love everything. But you know what? I'm still a Page of Cups, deep in my heart. It's a card, you know, I don't need it. I like it. I appreciate it. I don't need to read a deck. On the contrary, I need the simplicity, the gentleness, the richness of colors and what a person can bring to tarot. That's what I like. I don't like tarot to be good, you know, like doing things good. I like them to be creative and engaging and outcasts, weirdos, but not like Aleister Crowley weirdos, obviously. Not creepy weirdos, good weirdos. Anyway, gosh, Katu, you're tired. Oh, I know I'm tired. You know I'm tired. I know I'm tired. Why am I here? I don't know. Still trying to do all 13 prompts. You believe in me because I don't. I'm gonna need a break right now. Simon's third question is why tarot, and he did explain in this video, in his own video, that it's more like why tarot as compared to other divination systems. That's a good question. I like a system. I do like a system. I do practice in a very intuitive way. I am not afraid to move away from a card's classical meaning, but I need the structure. I need it. I need to be able to hold myself with it and to use it as a framework that's always somewhere in the back of my head. And sometimes not in the back of my head, but very much what I build my reading upon. So the structure is definitely that. I like oracle decks. I like when they have a structure as well, but I don't like that it's unique to each deck. So you need to learn again and again. And it's not very good for the creative and intuitive reading that you bring to a deck. So I like that tarot decks have a structure, kind of, sometimes different, sometimes because they follow RWS or Thoth or Thoth, whatever, however you pronounce it, or Marseille, but also every single deck is unique. Every creator brings something, and every reader brings something to the tarot. It's been evolving for more than 5 centuries, and it's gotta go on evolving, well, as long as the apocalypse might be near, let's be honest, but it's constantly evolving, and with every deck I still marvel. You never stop learning tarot, that's for sure, but once you have the basic knowledge of tarot, you're good to go with about any decks. And you're gonna grow, and you're gonna learn, and you're gonna be a student for your whole life. Your relationship is always gonna change. And because there are so many different decks, but also because there are so many ways to read. And I'm going to talk about that with another question, but the fact that you can read it as a self-exploration tool, as a divination tool, as a storytelling tool, as, you know, it never stops. Tarot is, I feel like you can use it for so many things, and I still have a lot more to experiment, to find out about, to be called to use the tarot for, and I very much enjoy that. I'm not saying that no other divination system can bring that to me. Certainly not. That would be very Eurocentric to say such a silly thing. But for me, and in my European contexts, what brings me the vastness is a tarot deck. Next one is an easy one. My tarot pet peeves. Well, you've heard me about cardstock and so on. Of course, you've heard me complain about that. Who doesn't? But it's not really a pet peeves. What's really annoying for me, what I could just go on and on about, and also what's something that will make me buy or not buy a deck, is whether they have a wide array of representation, and whether the way that they have various representations, various bodies, and a respect of various bodies and various cultures, whether they do that with intentionality and not just marketing, branding arguments, you know. Because now we have a lot of inclusive decks, but whether we have a lot of inclusive decks that really do the job, the actual fucking job, is another question, you know. So yeah, absolutely. Whether they are inclusive, I'm holding my glass, inclusive. I have a whole video series about it. Actually, I'm still missing one video in this series, because with my EDS it's complicated for me to get all of my decks and talk about it, but it's coming, maybe, probably, certainly, who knows. But if you want to hear me out on that and hear my thoughts on inclusivity, what it means, why it's very, very important for me in a tarot deck, why I think that us as a community can do better, and everything like that, please go and watch at least my very first video in this series that I don't remember the name of, but it's gonna be somewhere, you know the story, or below, or blah, 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 blah. Favorite tarot spreads. Like a lot of people, I'm gonna say, but I don't use that many spreads, so then that's true. And for one, I really love very short readings, like a card of the day, or maybe 1 or 2 cards or 3 cards, but I'm going to adapt depending on whatever I'm going through on that day. But when I do something that's more helping for me during the day, I guess, is something with like the situation, or where I'm at, or the energies of the day, or something like that, and something to avoid as a second position. Yeah, what to avoid and what to, let's say, invite. In French I say à privilégier. I wouldn't know what to say in English, but yeah, what to, yeah, to invite in my life, let's say it that way. Sometimes I would have a 4th card with a self-care advice or something like that, or the balance between those cards when it's hard for me to connect them, maybe, or see how to make use of them in my day-to-day life. So that's the kind of spread that I would use, not daily. Usually I like one card for the day, it's more than enough. But I like those good old simple spreads that you can adapt with your situations. And other than that, depends on what my clients want, and I just design spreads on the go. I don't need to have a favorite spread, to be honest. But one of the spread that I like, I think it's called The Bridge, and it's designed by Beth Maiden from the Literate Tarot. It's something like where you come from and where you're going, but in the meantime, you know, it's for the liminal times, for the transitions. Where are you? What have you learned as you go forward? And I'm sure I'm on the wrong way for you, but whatever. And what are the next steps, and what can you bring to the journey, and what are the undercurrents? You can adapt it, but I like the visualization of a bridge as the basis on which I can find the positions for each card. I also like spreads are going to be inspired by crossroads, so you're in the middle of something, you're in a liminal state. What are you leaving behind? What are your lies? What are you bringing with you? What do you need to say goodbye to? What are you looking forward to? What can you bring to prepare? How can you help? How can you choose between the path ahead of you? What is the path, or the path plural, that are ahead of you, and things like that. I do like to have this visual element to help me design my spreads, my readings. So in a way I will go with that. Or tree is also something very good, especially when it's connected to the body or materiality. So, but did I answer the question? No, not at all, because I don't really have a favorite spread, but I like to have schemes, patterns of spreads that I will build on to deliver a reading that is adapted to my situation or the situation of the person who asked a reading from me. Your preferred tarot system obviously is the Rider-Waite-Smith, but I'm not so fond of the Rider-Waite-Smith either. There are a lot of problems in it for me as someone who aims to queer tarot and to make it more welcoming. But I would still say that it's my favorite one, also because I like the astrological correspondences. I think they are a good basis to reinvent and revisit and stuff like that. But the decks that I love the most will inevitably use this system and revisit it and not get stuck with it. I don't like copies, I don't like clones, I don't like decks that are too close to the RWS, but it's still the system that it's a sort of blueprint that I like to have in the back of my mind, and I like when the creators of a deck do have that as well, because then we have a common ground and then we can expand from that. But it's certainly not something I say as a fan of the RWS. There are many things I'm not a fan of with it. And I would very much hope that we can depart from it as a community in order to move away from its colonial, heterosis, patriarchal, capitalistic mindset that is still infusing a lot of the decks that we have today. Yeah, not a fan, but it's definitely my preferred system, because that's what we do with tarot. We accept it, some things, and we try to change others, and we bring our own perspectives, and we get nourished by other people's perspective. Tarot rituals. Tarot rituals, probably my card of the day. I've been very consistent with it for the past, I guess, 2 years. Now it's been very much a part of who I am. One of my favorite tarot teachers is Lindsay Mack. I like what she says about being present with tarot, working with anchor cards, and also not using it as a predictive tool. Mean that it's okay if we use a lot of tarot for different situations, and it helps us connect with ourselves or what's out there, whatever it is. From Lindsay Mack, I think I learned something that I already knew before, but maybe not in such a beautiful way as she does it, is that it's okay to use a lot of tarot and to bring it everywhere, and to have it in your mind as well, to not necessarily work with the deck, and that was very inspiring. Now what's very much my tarot ritual is to always have a deck with me and to bring it on a walk every single day if I can, and to see the resonance between the deck and the pictures and everything that's around, to draw cards to help me connect with the place and to myself. And it's not so much a ritual, but it's habits maybe that I have with tarot that I can build rituals with. In terms of purification, or I don't know, all of those things, how to do a reading and stuff, I don't have any rules, but I have rituals, but they're gonna evolve. So what can I say? Not much. Nothing is fixed in stone. Everything is gonna move. So yeah, I don't know what to say. When I read to others, I do have rituals like the meditations and all of my process, opening my channels and all of those stuff. It's pretty ritualistic, and I need to adapt on as I evolve as a tarot reader. I like to find them beautiful bags or have my butch sew them for me. Rituals can be very enriching and help us in our connection with tarot, and probably did back when I started learning tarot, and it will still do in the future. But now I would feel like I'm in a tiny box if I had too many rituals with my tarot decks. It depends. Like a couple of months ago, I started to use it again as I used to before. Use my tarot practice in collaboration with the lunar cycle. I'm not doing this for this cycle because I knew that the astrology was going to be way too much, but I might do that again, so we might consider it as a ritual as well. But I'm still at this stage in my spiritual practice. I'm trying to reconstruct it, to find my way into it. So I'm being very open-minded and trying out things before I can regroup, find my center again. And maybe if you ask me in 6 months, I'll have a lot of tarot rituals, but not now. I'm sure that I do have a ritual tarot something in me, but it's just because it's reconfigurating, I guess. It's not very easy for me to just explain what's going on. And I like also the expression ritual tarot, because it shows us the endless magical possibilities of using tarot. And I mean magical in a way, in a witchy way, as well as in a, oh, it's marvelous, wanderers are all around kind of way. But okay, I'm not gonna be able to explain, so why should I? How do you use tarot? Introspection or divination, etc. All of it. I told you, I never want to narrow down what I can do with tarot. That being said, introspection is a very big thing, and journaling with my spreads and my decks, and yeah, it's just with the idea of a card, not necessarily a card that I draw, but what a card represents. So as Lindsay Mack would say, as an anchor card, I like to bring that energy in my life. Magically, maybe not that much, because it's not so much part of my practice at this point, but never say never, or never again, I suppose. Divination, yes, but I don't use tarot as a predictive tool. Now, everything that I do is animist, so I do consider that there is a lot more than our scientific-oriented, Cartesian, capitalistic society wants us to see. So divination for me means that we welcome everything, all the messages, everything that is around, and everything that wants to or accepts to speak to us around us. So in that sense, divination is totally part of my tarot practice. And to look into the future maybe a bit, but it's not really something that makes so much sense to me. The past, definitely, and then the present, but all that is here in the present that is more than meets the eye. or more than what our rational mind can grasp or comprehend, or you know. So divination is very, very big for me. I'm a poet, and I use also tarot not only as storytelling, but to let it, I channel a lot through tarot. I channel, and I wouldn't explain now what I do channel from the spirits, from deities, or from the cards themselves. But this is very animist, and this is very, yeah. I do sometimes consider that it's clear that there's a lot of clairsentience in my tarot, so in this way it can be pretty mediumnic, but not in the meaning of connecting with the spirits of the dead or things like that. It's not my practice, but there's a connection with spirits, and spirits definitely. So in that way I can say, oh, it's just only self-exploration and introspection. There's so much more, especially when I read to other people, or when I try to connect with a place, the spirit of a place, and so on. Creatively, tarot is a big source of inspiration, my main source of inspiration, and it's also to help me through the day, to plan my day, to plan projects. Planning is not really a concept that I'm very good at, but maybe that's why I'm using tarot for it. But maybe it's not the best word, but to organize and to visualize. And also, of course, then I use tarot for meditation and pathworking meditation, and not that much, but it's part of the spectrum. It's part of the spectrum to dream of tarot cards. So dream work, maybe, probably, absolutely. Nothing is off limits when it comes to tarot. So yeah, ancestor work and ancestor communication for myself, definitely. There's so much. I'm not. Next 9, we have your significator card and why you feel it represents you. There are so many ways to decide what's a significator card, and also, is it the card that you relate to the most, or is it the card that you're going to see yourself in when you see it in a spread or in a reading? Simon created this tag, and in a previous video he explained that the significator card comes from the Myers-Briggs test association, like personality characteristics. I'm not going to go into it, but it's the association of the results of these tests with tarot cards. And actually I have I'm the same type as he is, so according to that system I would be Page of Cups. I love the Page of Cups. I definitely identify with the Page of Cups. I do identify a lot with Page's energy, so if I see a page in the spread, I'm gonna be like, oh, so me. I'm like, I'm listening, because I see that, you know, I see myself in the reading, whether if it's let's say a king or another card, I'm gonna be like, oh, it's something that I can invite in my life, something to aspire to. It's a personality trait that is there, like every 16 card is there in me. I have them in me, I know it, but the pages are always there up front because they are so experiential. And that's the answer also to the previous 2 questions, tarot rituals and tarot, how do I use tarot? I'm an experiential person and I like to receive. I'm a Taurus moon. and I'm open when it comes to tarot in life, not for everything, but for this the kind of the aspects of my life that relates most with tarot, if you see what I mean. So the pages, definitely, especially the Page of Pentacles and the Page of Cups. Yeah, no, all pages. No, not the Page of Wands. I'm not a Wands person. I have just nothing in fire signs in my chart. I'm apart from Uranus in Sagittarius, but it's a generational planet, so does it really count? I don't know. But astrology is very good at telling how I am in life. Fire, just like this element and we are on a different level. I need to bring fire in my life. I like to do it. I like to read the cards, but the wands cards. But obviously, Page of Wands is hard. No, it's not obvious, but to me it's obvious. And when I think about it, I have a very good relationship with the Knight of Wands. I have a very good relationship with the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands. All of them were pretty close, but the Page of Wands, there, now. So I'm a page person apart from the Page of Wands. That's something that I need to work on, clearly. If I have such an aversion to a card, it means that it is important to me, but it's not a significator card for me at this stage. But Page of Cups was really nice for this mystical, welcoming everything energy, and speaking with the fish in the cup and telling a story to the fish, or telling the fish's story and how you connect with the unseen and with nature. And yeah, I don't know. And also, yeah, the Page of Swords is such a Gemini card. But would I say it's a significator card for me? Now that I know it, this association, I'm more attentive to it when it comes up in the reading. But yeah, I'm not sure that I see it as a significator card. So there's also this old system of finding your birth card, as Mary K. Greer used, and someone else before her, I think. So like the addition, adding up all the numbers in your birth date, and then bring it back to a number. So me, I'm 10, so I'm the Wheel of Fortune. Doesn't really work for me, Wheel of Fortune. And if you bring it then back to one number, it would be 1. So the Magician, I do like that. When I see the Magician in the reading, because I'm a Virgo rising and a Gemini sun, and I have so many things in Gemini, and my Mercury is well placed in my chart, kind of. Well, it's prominent in my chart. So when I see the Magician in the reading, I'm like, okay, I know what part of me needs to come to the forefront. And by the way, before I started this video, I was like, oh, I'm gonna need to draw a couple of cards to know where I'm at, and I hadn't done my daily draw yet. So the card of the day, the central card of the reading was the Magician. I was like, okay, let's be chatty, let's make this video. And okay, maybe I'm a bit anxious to be doing a video in English because it's so hard for me and tiring, but I can do it. I'm the Magician. I'm a mercurial person. Anybody is whatever. I'm gonna go for it. You know what I mean. So when I saw it, I knew what part of me needed to come to the forefront. Like my mid-heaven sun in Gemini was like, okay, I'm needed. Hey, I'm here. Let's be chatty. Let's be curious. Okay, it's not so much the Magician, and more the mercurial aspects of the Magician. I mean, but yeah, it works. Lately, I've also been very attracted to the Venusian and the Taurus qualities of the Empress. So as of now, I would say it's the card that I identify the most with. So I could say that it's a significator card for me whenever I see it, whenever I need something to ground me, an energy that I know is, you know, like the exclamation mark on a reading or on a daily draw or something, like, oh, the Magician, oh, the Empress, okay. It's connecting me to myself, but I don't use it as a card that I'm going to look for when I shuffle the deck to see the cards around or things like that, or the way you would use a significator card in a Lenormand or with a Lenormand oracle deck, or even with a Celtic cross or anything. So I know which card I identify with, and I know why, and it's mostly astrological, but not only. But I don't restrain myself with this concept, how I would say. 10 is most expensive tarot acquisition. Now I have the privilege of being a YouTuber, and also I wrote reviews back then for the Literate Tarot website. So I got a lot of my expensive decks for free, I'll be honest here. And also very generous friends. Thank you to my generous friends. So the most expensive decks that I have, I think I'm not the one who bought them. Lucky me. The most expensive decks that I have are the indie decks, and the more expensive decks that I feel like it's okay to afford are around 60 to 70 euros if you add the delivery costs. Sometimes when you have very bad experiences with the custom fees, it can go higher, but then I'm like, okay, I'm never ordering from them anymore. Here we have the Hollow Valley Tarot. It was 54 euros. This Spirit Tarot was about 60 euros. But I also bought the guidebook with it, so it added up. So maybe the guidebook and the deck and the shipping cost was almost 90 euros, so maybe it's the most I paid, but because the Fifth Spirit Tarot is the best of the best. Then you have the indie edition of the Next World Tarot. That's more than I can afford. Obviously I have a problem with buying decks, but more than that would really mean that I would put myself in a terrible situation just because I love tarot decks. That's not something to do. So I don't have a very expensive tarot deck, I guess. Oh, I mean, 60 or 70 euros is bloody expensive. Such a big amount, and so very little people can afford to pay for that. But I guess that the point of this question is for people to be like, oh, this was 200 euros or like more than 100 euros, and I would never do that. I mean, especially now, there are so many decks on the market. If a deck is too expensive for me, then so be it. There will be something else for me. It's not possible for me. I mean, if it is for other people, that's good for them. That's I know my limits. But I buy way too many decks, including indie decks that are way too expensive and that I can't actually afford. Now we have a unicorn deck. The deck that's so hard to find. So basically it means, from what I gather, it's the deck that you really want, but out of print or hard to find or very expensive or things like that. So that's what I understand. As I said, I don't really have such a deck in mind at this stage, because we have many decks coming out every month. I don't feel like if I don't have a deck, then it's my unicorn deck and I'm so sad or fantasizing about it. But then maybe my unicorn deck is the deck that we are creating with my wife, Rose Butch, and that is taking so much time, and also it's very hard to co-create something, and it's hard to create a tarot deck as an artist, but it's also hard to co-create because she's the painter, I'm the writer. It's so long. I'm not sure there's gonna be a deck at any point, and I know we are working on the cards and we keep on working on it, but I'm absolutely not sure there will be a deck. So it's my unicorn deck because it's a dream that I'm committed to make a reality of, but not too much. But it's part of my life, so it's my unicorn deck. It's a non-existent deck at this stage, but it is. Come on, I'm gonna show you. That's the High Priestess. I love the High Priestess. It's my vision of the High Priestess. She did a good job making my vision into a reality. This is me as the Queen of Cups. I don't think you can, because the lights, you cannot see all the iridescent thing, shell felt like the chariots, beautiful chariots. This is a sketch for the magician. This is a sketch for the emperor. This is the Hierophant. This is the sun. Here comes the sun. Beautiful sun with a beautiful light. The moon, I have the sketch here, but you can see a version of it over there. See, there's a version over there. Not showing you more for now. You can go on Rose's Instagram account if you want to see more. And speaking of unicorn decks, I don't think this is the direction that we're gonna keep, but this is what we initially sketched for the Knight of Cups on a unicorn thingy thing. 12. What's the most important lesson tarot taught you? That's hard because there are so many things I learned from tarot. I don't know if lesson is the word that I would use, but anyway, we see the point. I would say it's this page energy, what that I was talking about earlier. Seeing the magic all around. And well, I've always been such a person who would see the magical around me, but now it's not just seeing the words with wonder, but it's also hearing and seeing the unseen to our modern eyes. But it's also, yeah, learning how to be a spiritual person again, which is something that I was when I was a kid, and I was a very mystic, Christian mystic kind of kid. And then as I had a hard time with Catholicism, I had to relearn that, from being an atheist to opening up again to spirituality and some kind of witchery, even though I wouldn't say that I identify as a witch. And yeah, being an animist and deity work, especially no, not work, but relationships, especially with the devotion to Hecate. The death Hecate was very important for me. All of this, but it's part of the same package of becoming more spiritual, but also more in tune with spirituality. Is a word that can be detached from the material world and nature. And what I mean is this connection is in everything, and it's very materialistic, and it's very connected to nature and everything. Everything is alive with the sound of animism. Whatever. That makes me think of one of my tarot pet peeves that I didn't mention earlier, is that everything is political, and spirituality is political, and tarot is political, and the wishy-washy people, or love and light people, or cultural appropriation oriented people who would consider that tarot and or spirituality is detached from everything. It's not. That's one of my pet peeves, but I think it's very it's obvious, but I needed to state that at some point in the video. Tarot dinner party guests. We can pick one guest of honor plus 2 other guests, dead or alive. It's not a question for me somehow. I'm here for what's there, you know, and maybe that's the thing, that's the lesson as well, and that's the unicorn deck as well. It doesn't really fit for me. Especially nowadays, it's so easy to go on Instagram or elsewhere and get in touch with the people you admire. So the concept of a dinner, like Alice in Wonderland kind of thing, I don't know, it's maybe I have a hard time imagining that. But after thinking about it for a while, I think that my best tarot dinner would be with people from the queer tarot community and political tarot community, and bringing them all together. So I wouldn't pick 3, obviously, and I wouldn't have a guest of honor because that's not queer. It would be like, you know, I had the privilege of meeting Beth Maiden from Literate Tarot in real life in 2020, just before the pandemics, and she would be there, obviously. And in the English-speaking community, I would think all of the people from the old Literate Tarot community, for example, Azali Earthwork and Cassandra Snow, and so on and so on. And then there would be also the Word Witch, Charlie Burgess, the creator of the Fit Spirit Tarot. Also podcasters or zinsters like, I forgot their name, the person who does the podcast In Search of Tarot, the person, and I don't have their name in mind either, with the account Politics of Tarot. They would all be there. You know, people who are really committed. Maybe not all of them would say they were queer, but they are committed to political tarot, queering tarot, feminist tarot, and an anti-racist view on tarot. Maria Menis of I don't know how to pronounce her name, the person who now has a podcast that's really cool, and who created the tarot, anti-racist tarot series that's going to become a book. So many people like that, you know. And on the French-speaking side, there would be more people that I know that I could invite, but then I'm in touch with them a lot of the time, so it's not that good for an imaginary dinner, because I can imagine that at some point we would have this dinner, especially now that, fingers crossed, the pandemic gets better. Hey Sawin, you want to say hi? You're always invited to my tarot dinner. The Queen of Cats. I'm a bit scared to be forgetting people. I want to say also Sophie's friend, who is a tarot reader. She doesn't necessarily talk about tarot that much in what she does, but she's a tarot reader, so that counts, and she's an amazing author. Lindsay Mack, obviously. I have to stop, but I'd like to invite a lot of people, actually. The links you will find down below. That was fun. That was very fun. It's too hot. I literally have no idea what I'm saying anymore. I hope I don't have too much work editing. I hope I make sense. I'm not sure. As always, I'm sorry for my accents. I've never been able to change it, and as my EDS is getting worse, it's getting more complicated for me, even more, to modulate my voice, I guess. And I hear myself scream right now. Got to calm down, calm down. It's 35 degrees out there, Celsius, obviously. So it's hot. I picked the wrong place I have to go, and I took too much caffeine in order to be able to make this video. Who is still there listening to me ranting, speaking, whatever, being all hyped up and tired, actually very tired, and unable to speak, and then bye les gros bidous, and see you soon.